Derek Wheatley, and welcome to episode 95 of the Weekly podcast. Thank you very much for joining us here on YouTube or on any of the podcast platforms. I want to thank my last guest, Brittany Hogan, for talking about rugby, and she's an Irish international, plays for the rugby sevens and also the 15s and also Ulster. But we got a good bit into talking about mental health within the team. How they would be comfortable approaching each other about mental health, and how the Irish Rugby Federation, I think that's right, will help people with if they need help with their mental health. So it was great. Unfortunately, we interviewed Brittany just before Ireland beat New Zealand. That would have been a very interesting conversation to have, but look, that's all right. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. And as always, thank you very much for your support in here and on social media, all that stuff. But I'm going to introduce our guest today. She is a life coach, and her name is Emma Finneran. How are you, Emma?
Good. How are you?
Do you know, I'm all right. Yeah, I'm all right. Like, the days are going by. I'm getting a bit... I haven't recovered. I don't know if this happens to you, actually, because I was talking to someone about this during the week. When the hour changes... In the what did it do? It falls back. So the hour went back 2 weeks ago. I still haven't got back on board the sleep thing at all.
Yeah, and I find myself waking up like really, really early in the morning, and I'm like, I don't have to get up yet.
Yeah, and that's sometimes that's lovely, but I got up at 4:30 one of the mornings because it was like that was it. I was wide awake, and there was no way of me changing. And this was like, for the purposes of this podcast, when we're recording it, this was maybe 2 weeks ago this happened. So I'm still trying to get on, that thing. But anyway, this isn't about me. It never is. Listen, Emma, could you give us a short history of your upbringing, please?
Well, I think I would have had a very typical Irish rural upbringing. Parents, brothers. I grew up in a very rural community, and it was very, very close knit. So I think it was fairly typical. Like, there was no ordinary or anything like that happened. So
that's good. We like to hear that. I mean, drama is good sometimes, but I mean, with childhood, it's always better if it's very much like plain sailing the way through.
Middle, simple.
Yeah, but you're from Athlone, right?
I'm from Chatmaconnell.
Okay, all right.
I live in Athlone.
I don't think I've ever been there. I don't know. I always hear the name.
Oh, you're missing out.
Really? I should take a tour out to Chatmaconnell? Okay,
yeah,
I'll do that.
Tour.
Quick tour through. I'll do that. Don't worry. So when did you first become aware of mental health?
I think I first would have experienced anxiety, I think really when I was 20, 21. And I wouldn't have had no idea what it was, because there was no real discussion or anything like that around mental health at the time. So I kind of would have experienced it on and off. Now, it was never bad, but it's not a nice feeling. And I think I became aware it was anxiety. It would have been around 2014, 2015, and people were sharing videos by Brezzy up on Facebook. And I remember looking at him talking and going, okay, that's what all this is. So, there was never a discussion. Like, you're talking, I'm 33, so it would have been back 2007, 2008.
Yeah.
There was no discussion whatsoever around mental health.
It's very strange. We've had a run of guests now that have come on and said, similar to you, Emma, just the kind of that they had something, didn't know what it was, rather. And Brezzy has popped up a few times, which goes to show the kind of impact he's had, and fair play to him. I've always kind of big him up on this podcast, of course. But yeah, it's interesting that we didn't have that groundwork, and let's kind of hope that as we go through, kids go through the schools now, that there will be some sort of, knowledge passed on so that they can, at least if you're 20, you start experiencing anxiety and you have a knowledge of what it is from the symptoms, you can go and talk to someone and, like, fingers crossed, cut it out at the source.
Yeah.
And let's hope we get better at this. But I think we are. I think people are getting better.
Yeah, we're improving a lot.
Yeah, I agree. So obviously I've introduced you as a life coach, but when did you first hear about life coaching?
I came across it in 2017, and I remember, I think I had plans at the back of my head. It was something I needed to do, but I wasn't entirely sure what it was. And then I remember thinking at the time, probably people who are really successful and have their stuff together are probably going to this. and guide other people. And I remember thinking, well, I definitely don't have my stuff together. Successful, depending on what your version of that is. So I was like, sure, I'd be very stupid now to go into that. But I kept it at the back of my head.
It's a thing, and obviously I asked you on to talk about this because I've seen life coaching from when I heard first about it. It would have been just a few years ago, not that long ago.
New, like.
Yeah, it is relatively new, and like when you say that, when you first heard of it, I guess, and I just mentioned before we started recording to Emma that I had a conversation with a friend of mine last weekend, because I told them that Emma was coming on and we were chatting about life coaching and stuff. And it was one of those conversations where two people who have never been to a life coach talking about it as if they knew everything about life coaching and what other persons should change in their life. And I think you approached it more as an idea, as a profession, rather than, you didn't go to a life coach first.
I just came across it. I remember seeing somebody was a life coach and I went, what is that? It was kind of what, and then, but it was something, it struck a chord in me anyway. And I remember looking into it. I remember even finding the courses in Ireland and everything and thinking, I remember looking at the courses thinking, God, that's really interesting. I could do with doing that for my own life. But again, I was like, with people, and then when I read it, I used to coach other people. I was like, sure, nobody come to me like, I'd be very stupid. But like it did stick in the back of my head for a long time, and I used to look into it every so often and then just talk myself out of it.
Yeah, and we're all very good at that, and we're all very easy to say, sure, like you just said there, like who come to me, kind of a thing, and it's funny, we will always do that. We'll always talk away out of it. We're great at doing it. So here's the broad question. There's always one per episode, and I hope there's not any more in this one, but what is life coaching?
Life coaching is, as a coach, I would meet with a client. I would see where they are now in their life and where they want to go. And again, I would ask them questions around that and help them form action steps to help them move forward in their life. So a lot of people will come to me if they're feeling stuck, if they feel like you could be at a crossroads, you're trying to make a decision. And because I don't know the person, I don't have an opinion on them.
Yeah. And like, is the idea, because I looked up a little bit here and there just to kind of sort the questions out, and like, isn't a wellness idea? Is that would it fall under that bracket?
Yeah.
Right. So like,
wellness and personal development.
Right. Because we talk so much about obviously wellness and different like ways that we try to look after wellness and stuff like that. And I find it interesting when I've looked at the title life coach, or I've heard about life coach, it doesn't immediately, it didn't really spring to my mind, and it's only me speaking, obviously. And when I looked into it, and obviously saw the wellness and saw the connection to wellness, I think it's something that, as an expert from just talking last weekend, I would know so much about it. But the idea that I lay out on the table all the stuff that I do and things like that, and I'm going to actually park that one I'm going to say there, right? Because we're going to talk about this after I read an ad in a few minutes. But so how would someone know if a life coach would be a good idea for them?
I went coaching myself now in 2020. It's like, pandemic. I was like, oh my God, what's going on with my life? And I remember at the time kind of going, should I go back to therapy? But I remember going, I don't need to go to therapy because I'm just going to be going back over stuff I've gone through before. But I remember saying, I need a way to look forward, move forward. And that's when I life coaching, because it's now in the present moment and where you want to go.
That's very interesting.
It's helping you become unstuck.
That's really interesting for me, because again, I talk about therapy a lot, and I've been to therapy, a number of different types of therapy, and at the moment I would definitely say that I'm okay not to be a therapy at the moment, Yeah. So that's the kind of idea that it's a different option altogether from therapy, and it's something the way, like you talk about, moving forward in a different direction rather than just going back, because that's my whole thing about therapy now is it helped me an awful lot, but it wouldn't help me anymore at the moment. If you know what I mean, I've gone through. I don't want to repeat my story to anybody.
Yeah.
And I think that like some people are looking for alternatives.
Yeah, like that's how I felt at the time. I said, if I was to go back to therapy, I'm going back over the same stuff all over again. I've already gone through with another therapist. And then I was like, well, what? And then I was looking for other options at the time as well, because I was really struggling. Like it was 2020, you know yourself. So I was really struggling. And then that's when I said, I'm going to look into a life coach. But like I needed help with kind of day-to-day stuff at the time, because like I was working from home, I was in the house the whole time, you know, things like that. And I was really struggling, because before the lockdowns, I would have been out the whole time. I had something different on every evening. So it was a massive change for me then to be stuck in the house the whole time. So that's when I came across coaching. And I remember thinking, I'll go for a few sessions, kind of look at day-to-day stuff, what I can do to keep myself kind of occupied and sane. Well, as I moved on through, and then as I kept going through sessions, I actually said I'd actually like to do this. Good. So I found it really beneficial, really, just for, you know, helping me move forward, see where I want to go.
Yeah. And go ahead.
It was you're asking people questions, because we all know what we want deep down, but it's just helping people get to the root of what they actually want.
Yeah, and I think when you talk about, you know, 2020 of it being such a dramatic year in general, you know, and I think, you know, and I think we talked, everybody was speaking about the idea of like what we do when we get out, you know, of the pandemic and we move kind of forward. And to me, in my experience, it's been quite odd. It's been, you know, if we're talking about Athlone here, just going into the town at the start was quite difficult for me, because it was obviously kind of deserted and very strange. And, you know, we had all these kind of different rules that we had to follow and things like that, they're all good, by the way, in case anybody bloody texts or whatever, they're all good and I agree with them. But it was very strange to me. And even going out, I went on a night out, my first night out, and we just went for something to eat. Like there was a group of us. And even then I just didn't feel, I'd been so used to doing other things like staying in and coming to terms with the fact that I was just going to be staying in nonstop and this is the way it was now. I can see why people might need that little bit of coaching to help them through.
Yeah.
You know, and I think
breaking up. Yeah.
I want to. So the first appointment or the first meeting or the first of anything is kind of an anxious time for it doesn't matter what it is. I think a lot of people would say it, not just me. What would a first appointment with yourself involve?
I will obviously introduce myself, things like that, and I would ask the person what is bringing them to coaching, what's going on at the moment. So, you know, you might hear somebody saying, I'm not happy at the moment, I'm feeling stuck, I'm feeling, you know, very like things aren't moving forward. And again, it's basically me getting the person to talk and then asking them questions on what they're after saying. So if I had I've had clients, let's say after losing their jobs, looking up stuff, you know, going back to college and things like that. But it's actually like, because we don't, like in our regular lives, we don't get the chance to sit down with somebody else and discuss exactly what we want. Where, you know, if you meet with your friend, it's you say something, they say something, you say something. That's the conversation. But it's actually sitting down with another human being and talking about you, talking about what you want. And by asking questions as well, you're getting them to look at things in a completely different way.
Yeah, I get what you're saying about the conversation with friends, because it does become a kind of this, well, I did this, well, this is how I do it to help. And it does, like, and that's just like a natural conversation that we have with people, but it's not the same thing as having the ear of someone who has trained in this and kind of, you know, and it's not like some people, and it's a shame that some people are kind of hold something like therapy as a you know, a weird thing, or, you know, like they still see it as that kind of way. But, you know, the fact that there are alternatives out there that people can, you know, if they're stuck on a certain thing, and I'm obviously not talking about mental health now, by the way, but if they're stuck on a certain thing, that there is people out there to help them. I think that's hugely important. Emma, just give us 1 second. I'll read out a little advert here and we'll get back into it. All right. So let me get this right again. I'm doing all right with this at the moment. Don't know why I just don't record it and stick it in, but hey. Fusion Training Centre, Monksland, Athlone, a place to train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, kickboxing, martial arts and CrossFit. A great atmosphere with experienced coaches and a real sense of community. If you want to join the team, find us on Facebook at Fusion Training Centre or drop in for a chat. Fusion Training Centre, train like a warrior. That was all right. It'll do. So let's get that over there. Right, that bit's done. We can just relax now. That's the kind of commercial bit out of the way. So when you were in training for to become a life coach, what did that involve with you? And was it obviously it was all over computer and stuff like that? But is it quite a thorough kind of program?
Yes.
Okay.
I trained with the Irish Life Coach Institute, so the ILI, and it was an 8-month course. So it was 1 weekend every month. Right. Now we're meant to do it in person, but with restrictions and everything else, it was online, which worked out a lot better for me because I didn't have to go to Dublin. But there was a lot of book study throughout the course. And as I said to us at the beginning, like to coach other people, you need to sort out your own stuff. So like as they told us, you're going to fall apart and we're going to put you back together.
Okay.
I was like, oh, lovely. But like I needed it. Like, so as we went throughout the courses, like there was different books recommended to us, which go and do assignments and how they were like what insights we had into the book, how we're going to apply these insights to our own lives. Then there was also peer coaching. So there was a group of 24 of us all together. So we, like for the first couple of months, we were coaching each other. And we would have had like a skills assessor kind of looking at us and pointing out things and things like that. And then I think it was either June, I think it was in June, then we had to start coaching members of the public.
Right.
So basically what I did was something up my Instagram and my Facebook, and people kind of responded to that, like they saw free coaching. So I got clients that way.
Yeah.
And then that was another experience because you had somebody sitting in front of you who had no idea like what coaching was, what they could achieve from it. So that was the 8-month program, but it was like through the books, through the assignments, you were sort of sorting your own stuff out at the same time. So there was a lot of like, aha moments, I call them.
Yeah, I can well imagine. I think, what was it when you moved into the public thing? When you see you had to talk to members of the public, how nerve-wracking was the first one of those?
Very.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
I was just like, I remember at the home, my parents' house, and I was nearly sick for an hour beforehand going, I can't do this. But it was the second the person logged on, I just switched into coach mode and I was
because it's interesting to me, Emma, in the sense of, as obviously you were training, you had to, learn about yourself and the things that you wanted to change. Like, and I imagine when somebody goes to a life coach, they see the coach they're going to as definitely someone who has everything worked out and they're flawless and all this idea and stuff. And obviously nobody is. And we look on the we all know that nobody is. But again, how much did you kind of?
Sorry, now you're breaking up on me.
Oh, did I break up? Sorry. I was just going to say, how much did you kind of, I guess, learn about yourself? It's a broad. I didn't want to ask any more broad questions, to be honest with you. Am I still with you? I think our thing's breaking. Are you back?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I think you'll have to repeat all that.
That's all right. I won't repeat it all because I was waffling a bit. But I think it's the idea of like as you were going along on the journey of kind of learning about yourself and stuff. How much did your life improve in that training?
I feel like I went into the course one person and came out another.
Okay, that's big.
And I think it was one of the first modules was listening. And I was here going like, how are they going to teach us how to listen? Like everybody knows how to listen.
Yeah.
But and then I remember going through it, going, I don't really listen, do I?
Yeah, I don't know. Listening is a very, people find it very difficult.
Yeah.
And do you feel that you are better at it now?
Yes, because I practice it now the whole time. I became very aware. Okay, when someone's talking to me, I'm not listening to them. I'm thinking about what I'm going to say back to them.
Yeah, that's huge.
And I think I think everyone does that.
I agree with that. And do you know what? I just on a separate issue. Sometimes I like to give out in certain parts, but when people are on their phones when you're talking to them, and they can't, they can't do both, and that the focus is the phone. That to me is like a soul destroying kind of thing.
Well, one of the exercises we had to do were put into pairs, and I had to talk, and the other person had to listen without saying anything. And you knew by her, like, she was listening, she was nodding. But then it was to turn the tables where she had to talk to me, but I had to be like, I'm not listening to you, but you're talking. And, and I was on my phone, I was looking, but, and then we went back into the group and I said, yeah, I felt really listened to, I felt great. And she was like going, and then when they asked the people on the other end of the exercise how they felt, they were like, oh, that was horrible.
I think I've gotten better at listening on this podcast since I started this podcast, because I've obviously, everybody who I've asked to come on, I've wanted to listen to. But that's a different thing. That's like, it's not applying real life, because sometimes there's people who you think you don't want to listen to, you think that what they're going to say is not interesting. But, when you actually do tune in and listen to them, it is something that's interesting. So I think it's helped me in certain ways. The bad thing is what you just mentioned there about, like, not wanting to follow up. You're listening, but you don't, you're trying not to think of what, but when you're doing a podcast, I'm trying to take everything in that you're saying and know what the next question is. So there's no, like, dead air and stuff like that. So it's tricky. It's tricky, but I continue anyway. So do you find actually when you talk to people about, being a life coach, do you find there's kind of a cynicism towards that?
I remember talking to somebody before I started the coaching, and I said I was doing a coaching course, and the person turned around and said, since when are you into sport?
Yes.
And I was like, yeah, and I'm still definitely allergic to sport, don't worry. Yeah, I do find people kind of nearly rolling their eyes and things like that at you. But I just think, that's their opinion. They're entitled to that,
Yeah, and look, they may not be the ones that are going to sign up, and that's fine. Yeah. But I think a number of years ago I might have been the same with that, and not just with life coaching, but a lot of the things that I've had on. I've had a sand therapist on who I would have been going like, I don't know what, and dismissive of things, until you realize that there's somebody who's been helped out by each of those things before, and then it's irrelevant what this whole cynicism and being and kind of uneducated on the topics is just, it's my problem. It's not the problem of the coaches or the therapists or anything, because, I talk about CBT as something that's helped me a lot, and it may have helped a lot of more people, and it may not help some, but like a life coach could be the perfect solution to where they are in their life.
But it's finding what's right for you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Where, like, I went to therapy before I completely change my life, but other people might go and think, I've had friends say to me, oh, I've done 1 or 2 sessions and thought it was not helpful in any way. And it's the same with coaching. Like, somebody could come to you and not find it helpful, but it mightn't be right for them. Like, they might need to go and see a therapist, they might need to go and see a different coach. It's whatever you need at the time. Like,
absolutely. And I think it's just being, I was maybe a bit resistant to certain things before. Like, it wasn't even, sometimes it was cynicism, sometimes it was being resistant to something, as in, I'm sure I'm grand, everything's grand with me, like, and knowing full well that there's things that need to be solved, or I'm not able to sort certain things out, whether and look, I'm sure you hear about these things all the time, whether someone's in the wrong job, or whether somebody wants to change, maybe get other stuff outside of their job because they're stuck in just the job as a thing. And, for me, that's always, when we were talking, when me and my friend were talking, and I was just saying, oh well, like all I do is like train, and then like I go home and like I watch a film, and then I was kind of going, I love all those things. So it was kind of like giving out about things for absolutely no reason, because it's finding the when we talked about it, I thought to myself, this is exactly me find if I just talk these things out, what I do, like jujitsu, and I run, and I watch a film, and they're all good, enjoyable things, and you coach some kids classes, great crack, and then you realize, well, actually, I'm doing all right, but if I thought that there was another thing that I needed to do at the time, and I won't tell everything about the conversation me and my friend had, but it was certainly, you be the kind of person or the coach that I would go to see about it, because it is more to do with that kind of thing, the lifestyle, rather than anything to do with any anxiety that I may be having or anything like that,
I think though it's people need to find what they're passionate about.
Mm.
And if that means you sign up to classes, 20 different classes, do 20 different things, and on the 21st time you find that, it's just getting people to that place where they're willing to do that, and even willing to fail at something, willing to be bad at something. I mean, if you go and pick up a guitar, you're not going to pick up the guitar on your first round and be able to play a song. Like, you're going to be bad, you're going to make mistakes, and you have to be in that place where you're willing to do that.
See, this is why Emma is the coach and I am not the coach, because this is exactly what I was trying to say in lesser words, in less words. The idea, the way you've presented kind of the questions that we've covered on the life coaching is kind of, obviously it's helped figure out for me what life coaching is and what the goal is. And I always find, I don't know if this is this the same for you, Emma, but like, I'm much better at taking the kind of information on in conversation rather than in written text, like,
Yes.
And
completely.
and I think, look, I like reading, really enjoy it. But when I'm talking about something like this, if I sit down to read what life coaching is, it's not, it's just not the same. And that's why I guess I wanted to have yourself on, to kind of, so people would hear it rather than just read about it, or see a little post over Instagram or one of those things. When it's right in front of us, it's much better to hear about it.
Yeah, I often find that I could read a book on something, but someone shows me how to do it or has a 5-minute conversation with me, I will learn it so much, especially when it comes to therapies, because it's kind of hard sometimes to put into written word what they are.
Yeah, I mean, you can. It's like you can put a few bullet points up, but it's not. It's nothing. It's not even scratching the surface with it.
No.
So you have a talent for photography, I would say, and I saw your photos on Facebook over the lockdown. When did you start to have an interest in photography?
I think deep down I always had an interest in it, but I always kind of felt like there's a lot of money involved in it. And I remember, like, I posted this picture every year because it means a lot to me. Now, looking back, it's not a great picture, but I remember it was December 2014. I remember I was over in Burgess Park, and I remember seeing 2 swans coming across the Shannon. And I remember saying, if I had a really good camera, that's a really good photo. And next thing I said, should I have a camera phone? So I took out the camera phone, took the photo, thought it was great. I remember posting, I think it was on Facebook a few days later, because Instagram wasn't really big at the time. I remember the amount of likes and comments on it. So it kind of gave me a bit of a passion then. I started going out more and seeing more scenes, to photograph them, and it gave me, and as I kept posting them, then I kept getting really good comments and really good feedback. So it's just something I'm after been working on over the last 2 years. And like, I'd see it more as a hobby. But I'm out for my walk, I see something nice, I'll try and capture it in a good photo.
Did the coronavirus pandemic, I hate saying help, but you know what I mean? Like, you went out and took more photos during it.
Yeah, because I had a lot more free time.
Exactly. But I think, like, look, I'm a very much, we've had a photographer on, and I love photography. I love kind of I love chatting about it, and I've talked to some people who've been on here who like take photographs and appreciate photography. But you have a really good eye for color in your photographs.
Yeah, I work a lot with light,
Mm.
and like I know where the light hits. It's like a weird instinct I have. Like I know at certain times the light in this area is going to be really good, and if I see the sky is nice on a particular day, I'll head there that day when I know the light is going to be good. And sunsets and sunrises definitely are. I think I'm very good at them.
Yeah, but there's one that sticks in my mind. I've probably seen it a couple of times on your page, and it's of the ground and of leaves, and you can just see your kind of, I suppose, the toes of your feet and the boots, the shoes you're wearing. Yeah. I think most people agree with this. Like autumn in particular is a beautiful month for colors. I'm someone who's quite colorblind. No, I've red green deficiency, and I often wonder, do I see something different in those photos that have quite a lot of color in them? I'm sure I do see something different, but what I see different, who knows? Because I can't be a judge of it. But do you know the photograph I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, I take autumn is my favorite time of year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I will go down on the ground and play around with angles if I get a good leafy pavement or something like that. But I think it's a really good angle because people don't see the world from that angle.
It's true. Yeah, they look forward and never look down. And yeah, and another thing is you mentioned about like sunsets and sunrise. And there's many people who take sunset and sunrise. And even this morning, I was out for a run, and the sun was coming up, and it was one of those ones where, the sky was red and had the pink, coming out over the clouds, and it was beautiful. But not everybody does them justice, because you've seen this, I'm sure, but like if you look outside in the evening and it's got a lovely sunset, give it an hour, go on to Instagram, and every single person's taking a picture of it. But like not everybody's able to, that's what I mean about. You're capturing them. It's the light that you're capturing. Then is it?
It's very hard to describe it. It's just it kind of comes naturally to me. I think, like, I feel sometimes people walk past something and not see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, when they see it on their Instagram feed, they look at
it. Give it a like and.
Yeah, and you're kind of like, and even like when the lockdown came in, like we were all within our 2K, but like there was so much within that 2K.
Yeah, I agree.
I kind of felt when I was out taking photographs, I kind of felt I was nearly showing people, if you go out and have a look around, there is a lot there to be grateful for. Like we are very, very lucky.
Yeah.
But I think it's just, for me, I try and capture an angle that people wouldn't normally look at something in that angle.
Okay.
That'd be my kind of way of going in to take a photograph.
That's how
I capture on the ground, looking up, things like that.
So what do you get from photography?
I just get a sense of satisfaction. I get a bit of a buzz.
I think it's, again, and I don't care about banging the same drum, but it's the mindfulness is something that's we've covered an awful lot on this, and I think I can understand the buzz you get from it, because a good shot is a good shot, and it just it's beautiful to look back on as well, like to have it as a memory. But just going around with the camera, it's just your phone in your pocket, like and going to look for certain spots, like you say, depending on the light, it just sounds like a good, nice thing to do.
But it's like what I said about hobby and finding what you're passionate about. It's just, that's one of my passions, is capturing the beauty in the area around me. Like,
here's a question. You probably can't say no to this, really, because it's being recorded. Do you see beauty in Athlone?
Yes.
Do you? I shouldn't say. I'm only messing. I shouldn't say it like that. but obviously you've. I was going to say there's a few. Yeah. It's one of those ones, because I live here now. Obviously, I was born here, but I went to school in Dublin, so there's a bit of a bit missing in between of my Athlone life. But I guess as I grow a little bit older, I'm noticing a little bit more beauty in it than I thought there was initially.
Yeah, there's certain areas now I think could do with a slight improvement, but Like I think like we're on the River Shannon, like we're right in the centre of Ireland. And even like I live in the centre of town and there's two really, really good nature walks around me. Where a lot of people living in the middle of town it's like wouldn't have that luxury.
I think
it's just going out and actually appreciating what's around you. Because like we'll travel to different towns, we'll travel to different cities and go, oh my God, they're gorgeous. But it's actually looking in your own area. And even if you think something could do with improvement, like maybe, you know, if there's litter in an area, maybe pick it up.
Do something, yeah.
Yeah.
I went to Tullamore the other day, and I wasn't going around thinking it was gorgeous, to be honest. I think we've won over Tullamore, to be honest. And I don't mind saying that, even though it's been recorded. Same as Roscommon, we're over that as well. But no, I think obviously the Shannon adds an awful lot to it, and I think when you talk about nature walks, and then when you think about just being just outside of Athlone, when you talk about places like even Coosan or Moydrum, all these really nice spots that you can go to, and they're not that far away. And I think it's all right, and I think it's been captured through photography, a lot of it, like yourself and other people who are taking photographs and of Athlone and making it, not making it look, I mean, just showing us that there is a beauty in it, So you work in the Luan Gallery, which is a absolutely beautiful building that's been recently enough put up where I remember the good old days where the library was. So are you big into art?
I am, yeah.
Okay. And that was your driving factor to you applying for there?
I went in on work experience originally, and I got kept on, so I was very lucky.
How has it raised your appreciation for art, do you think?
I think I actually stop now and look at art.
Right.
Where before I would have just walked past it and again not seen it.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about the gallery, I've only been in there a couple of times and I should get in there more often, but I think both times that I went in, there was quite a wide range of art, like when I was in there was there was installations in there in one of the rooms, and then the others there was paintings on the wall, and that beautiful kind of Shannon view, that space at the front. There was some I think there was one large piece of artwork on the wall, but it was a great for the building to have such a wide range of art is brilliant, and I think it's credit to the person or the people who are sorting it out. I, having had a chat to people on this podcast, again, learning as I go with art, again, being dismissive of certain genres, dismissive of certain types of art. And then someone saying to me, well, you're not quite looking at it the way maybe it should be looked at, or probably putting it better than that. But it's that idea of, I dismissed installations and I dismissed kind of the art where maybe there's something hanging off the ceiling or, those kind of things. Would you have a particular kind of, favorite kind of art form, or are you just someone who can appreciate any kind?
Well, I'm in the gallery. I work there. I'm there 6 years, so I've seen a lot. So we would change exhibitions every 2 months. So we have about 6 exhibitions every year, and every single one of them is completely different.
They see, that's the thing. I didn't realize the turnaround. That it was every couple of months. I had who did I have on? I had Mimi Siri on. I think she was in there. Was she in there? I don't know. I can't remember now. I'm very bad at remembering these things. Too many guests. That's what happens. But so like I was saying. So it's just when I look at I'm very big into kind of. What is this? Impressionist. There, I got it. So I'm very into impressionist kind of art, but I thought that was the only art I liked until I started talking to people. And I say talking to you you'd be a great person to talk to about it because of what you've seen coming in.
Yeah.
And I think again, it's the whole idea of, it's the same as music. We're the same, we think, well, I just like rock music, I just like dance music, and I don't branch out into anything else. And it's a weird kind of way of cutting off all this beauty, all this great kind of artwork that's out there. Actually, for the people who haven't been to the Luan, is it kind of national artists, international artists? Is there a mix?
It's a mixture.
Okay, and it's like, And when is there like I can't remember the name of them, but what are they called? Receptions. Receptions, is that what they're called?
Yeah,
When
we
people
have a receptionist. Yeah.
No, not receptionist. Sorry,
Yeah.
that's the wrong word. I'm gone down the wrong. So exhibitions. That's what I was looking for.
That's
So
the word.
yeah, I knew there was some. But so would there be an artist who would be going in there with a certain amount of work and having a very, very large exhibition in there then?
It depends on the show. Like we
Yeah.
have, we open up submissions every so often, and that artists submit work, and then that goes to a panel, and then they decide who is in what show. Like it could be a solo show, it could be a group show, things like that. So we have had like exhibitions where it's all been all one artist, and then we've had other exhibitions where it's been like a good few artists.
Have you ever? Has it stoked your creative kind of juices? Have you ever picked up a paintbrush or anything?
Yeah, I have, and I
Okay,
draw
so
as well.
tell me a bit about that then. What are you? What would you describe? How would you describe your artwork?
Drawing. I use drawing kind of to help me if I'm not feeling great. So I kind of take up the pen and paper, and I would usually just find something on the internet and just try and replicate it now.
Okay. Well,
and then with painting, I'd watch tutorials on painting, but I'd always like to throw in my own little twists into it.
Again, another thing that's been very, talked about very highly as something that's very helpful. I remember my mom bought me one of those, the coloring adult books, the adult color books. And I remember getting one of those, right? And I had like a packet of what are called coloring pencils, and I was doing the art and stuff. I remember that guy, and I already said something else there. I remember that guy Russell Brand was talking about, and he was dismissing it, being really dismissive and snooty about, men being, or adults with the coloring books, whatever. But again, it was going back to the idea of like, well, okay, but like if it works for somebody else, why are you having a go at it? Like, why are you putting someone down because they're doing some like coloring in? It's a very strange thing, I think.
I think it's a way of connecting to your inner child, though.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Because like one of my favorite things to do when I was a child was take out coloring book and color. And then you get to a certain age, you're told, oh no, you were too old to do that.
Yeah, it's very weird. It's weird.
And who decides you're too old to do that?
Who decides? And I tell you, if I sit down, and I used to do a lot with my nieces and nephews when they were smaller, and they'd say, you color that page and I'll color this page.
Yeah.
I'd get so into it, like, and like they probably talk to me again, talking about conversations and not listening. I was probably so invested in staying within the lines, but that's I think again, that's a positive thing, like that idea of staying within the lines and being very neat and all your attention's on that rather than on, anxieties that could be there otherwise.
If you're doing, like for me, if I'm drawing, if I'm painting, that's what I'm doing. I'm not watching television. I'm not on my phone. I'm not doing anything else. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm concentrating on. And
it's better than being on your phone, because we're on our phone, like, again, phones are great. I'm not going to slag phones or uses of them, but we've got to spread it out a bit and do that whole thing of, it's like reading for me is very much like that, where it's just me and the book. And everything else can kind of go away. And it's just a simple thing of even putting your phone out of your eye. So if it lights up, you won't see it,
Just put it on silent. Like just
put it on silent and leave it away so you can't see it light up if a message comes through. And just take some little time. I think we're going back to some life coaching here, I think.
Yeah.
See, go full circle in this show. So question then on the life coaching, if somebody is listening to this, Emma, and they think they're kind of on the brink maybe of ringing you, but there's kind of something stopping them, maybe they're a little bit anxious, maybe they're not quite sure, what bit of advice would you give them?
Well, at the moment I'm offering a 30-minute session for free.
There you go.
Just to see if you are fit for me or if I'm a fit for you. And that'll give people the idea, okay, if this is something I want to do going forward. So I call it a 30-minute introductory session. So that's free. And then after that, then it's an hour-long session and that's paid.
Well,
but just gives people the opportunity to see if it's for them.
I think that's great, to be honest, because I do think that some people will have the concerns of can I afford it as well? Can I fit it in? Is it worth fitting in? All those kind of things. But to have a little introduction, not only to getting to know you and seeing if it's the right fit, but just finding out a little bit more about it, like, you know, the idea, because look, we've talked about it on this, but it's not quite the same as me sitting down with you on a session and saying, like, you know, kind of putting out my plans and you telling me what it is. So I think that's great. So we've covered a little bit about photography. What else do you like to do in your spare time?
I'd be a big reader.
Oh, let's talk a bit about reading then, because there's never anybody comes on and says that. So what I'm not going to will I say it? Yeah, I'll say it. What kind of genre do you like?
And it depends on the day. Now,
Yeah.
I would read a lot of personal development books because obviously I'm a life coach.
Yeah.
Then I like kind of murder mysteries, true crime.
Yeah, I like true crime an awful lot, actually.
Yeah, I love true crime.
It's very ghoulish. Why do you think you like true crime?
I have no idea. It's just something I'm so interested in.
Do you think?
And even a lot of podcasts I would listen to would be true crime as well.
I
just think it's interesting, the psychology behind it.
I think the psychology is huge. I also think that it's something that we never, we'll never do in our real lives. It's so out of, left field that we can kind of get involved in it and stuck in, even with the gore involved. I started listening to My Perfect Murder.
No, there's a few I listened to now. I haven't heard of that one.
That's again, it's a podcast, and the two hosts they're really funny, to be fair to them. But the two of them are they met recently, or they met about 4 or 5 years ago over, like, at a party or something, and they both realized that they loved this, true crime. So they started the podcast, and they tour all over America and all that. Like, they're very, very popular. But like it often makes me wonder, like, when I'm listening to one of the episodes, why am I intrigued so much about something that's, most of the time quite revolting,
I just think it's just so out there, and it's happened.
Yeah, like, sometimes I think of it this way, like when I hear something that's so graphic, or something that's so horrible that happened to somebody, I treat it like, like a piece of fiction. I never want to see it as something that's an actual real life event. So I like to treat it as like a piece of fiction that I just read, and I think it's easier then to kind of swallow. Because if you say you listen to you read murder mysteries, if you can see, maybe if you look at it that way as a murder mystery fiction, I think it's just easier to digest, I think.
Yeah, the true crime, sometimes it depends on what's actually after happening. Now, if it involves children or anything, that I don't listen to it because I just can't. But yeah, like seeing some of the serial killers and things like that, like I even love the whole psychology behind it, like what drove them. Or is somebody born like that, or what happens to them to make them do these things?
Yeah, that the whole debate of nature versus nurture, and the Night Stalker series. I don't know if you saw that on Netflix. It's particularly horrible, and they kind of told it up as something that's really fascinating, because, as you'll know, like a serial killer will normally have MO, and they would go after maybe women in their 30s, whatever it is. I'm just using that example, right? Sorry, Emma, I know you're a woman in your 30s. I do not mean it, but we'll say that, right? So women in 30s. But this guy, Richard Ramirez, had like nothing. He would do anything, and like you said about children, and he would kill anything. And that was the psychology for them was so amazing, because they couldn't pin him down, and that's why they took so long to find him. And it's a brilliant documentary, but it's horrible to watch. It's so hard to watch.
You think the likes of Ted Bundy, though, and things like that, like some things he done were horrific.
Yeah, he was.
And I even think he was one of the originals. I think the FBI actually started profiling based on some of the things he had done.
Yeah.
But like, I always think, like, was he born that way, or was it stuff that happened?
That's the question about Bundy, probably, because when we're talking about Richard Ramirez, so many bad things happened to him. Like his uncle did some terrible things to him, and it's all, it's so difficult to talk about that, because you don't want to say, well, this happened when he's young, so, because you don't want to excuse anything.
It's not an excuse either.
Yeah, exactly. It's not an excuse, and it's just to talk about. And I guess, look, even the way we're talking about it now, that's what's so fascinating to us.
Yeah.
The kind of idea of it. When it comes to reading, like, reading is a very big thing for me. Like I said earlier, when it comes to kind of being mindful and things like that, and I find it, I've been reading actually recently. I've been reading these three novels. Lisa McInerney, the Irish writer, because she's coming on next week, I think. And I read her first novel, and I loved it, The Glorious Heresies. If anybody hasn't read it, and it's an amazing novel set in Cork. And then I found out she was coming on, so I had to get the trilogy. And now like steam runs. It's not as mindful as I'd like it to be, but I'm kind of just trying to get them all in there before I talk to her, because I want to have a good discussion and not trying to skirt her on the fact that I didn't read one of her novels.
Louise O'Neill is another author. She's Irish. I really like her stuff.
Yeah. Asking for It was a particularly haunting piece of work. She's great. That's what I'm thinking about Irish authors. I'm not as up to date as I'd like to be on Irish authors.
Yeah, it's a hard one. I think because we're Irish, we mightn't really appreciate them as well. Like we just kind of bypass and go for the more international ones. Yeah. And I read a lot of biographies as well now. I like knowing people's life stories, and especially successful people. Like, what did they do? How did they get to where they were? Like.
Yeah, and because I see some of your posts as well, and you put, like you said, about whether the self-help books or whatever people refer to them as, and
personal development books.
Personal development books. I apologize. That's better. There's a better way of putting it. I'm going to start using that. But are you? Is it for you work now reading those, or is it personal development in itself?
I've been into I've kind of been reading them on and off, I say, for the last 10 years. Like Louise Hay was my first personal development book.
Right.
You Could Heal Your Life. And I remember it was a friend introduced me to it, because I think at the time the two of us were just not happy. So she was like, oh my God, I found this book. And I remember going in and reading it. And that was really what set me on the road of personal development, because it was my first time ever seeing that your thoughts are important.
Yeah.
And before that, I would have been like, I wouldn't have even paid attention to what I was thinking.
Yeah,
so she introduced me then to affirmations, mirror work, things like that. So yeah, on and off throughout the years. And definitely in the last 2 years, I've read a lot of personal development books. They don't feel like work to me, because I always go in with, I want to use this for my own life.
Yeah.
But now I've clients as well. I'm like, okay, can this, we could bring it into your coaching session and see if this is helpful for a client.
I was very, again, like we've talked about it already, this idea of personal development books, and I read a couple, and one was called Overcoming Depression, and the other was to do with anxiety. And, this I bought them years ago when I really started to struggle, and I was trying to get out of, this hole I was in, and I was kind of definitely not in the right place to read them. So I was very dismissive. And of course, when you become dismissive of something, you've become dismissive of the whole idea of those kind of books, personal development or whatever, self-help books, whatever. I was calling them self-help at the time. Okay. So, but I realized again what it was about it. Like it took me a while to realize it was the place I was in. It wasn't the books. It had nothing to do with the books. The books are still on my bookshelf and that, and they're ones that are really for dipping into rather than reading from cover to cover when you're really depressed. It's not the best place to go into, really depressed, into a book and you hate everything. But I do take things, like I've seen you put posts up with little quotes on them and stuff like that. And again, it's the idea for me, I will take those on board a lot easier than trying to cover a whole book from beginning to end, and maybe doing it the wrong way. It's I need people like you, Emma, to take chunks of books out and put them in easy kind of readable places, and I'll be sorted.
The best personal development book I've ever read is Power of Now, and it's by Eckhart Tolle.
This guy, this name Genius. Has come up so often.
Genius.
I'm gonna so this is the thing, right? So every episode something comes up and I say, right, I'm gonna try the cold water swimming.
No, it is hard to read though.
Yeah, well, I kind of I'd like to think that everybody knows going into those that they're not just going to be an enjoyable romp. Do you know what I mean? That there's going to be a bit of work to do, and that's okay. But I'm trying to take things from each episode, and this I was supposed to write his name down maybe 30 episodes ago when we had a breakup coach on, actually, Cheryl, and I didn't. So I'm writing it down, and I'm going to look him up. And this is what I'm taking. Well, I'm taking lots from this episode, but this is the main thing I'm taking. Like I took cold water swimming and all the other stuff I tried out. So that's, thank you for that, Emma. So I hope when it comes to your life that this was a correct decision coming onto this podcast.
Definitely was, yes.
That's I'm happy to hear it. Very important question. Where can people find you, Emma?
Probably Instagram is probably the best place. I have set up my own life coaching page. So I have it called the Quarter Life Coach.
If you're having to, I say this all the time, as if anybody has any difficulties finding stuff on Instagram. But if you are, I am following Emma. Just go into mine, and then following, and then you will find it. Okay. Emma, it's been a brilliant conversation, a lot of fun. Thank you for being so honest. I really enjoyed having you on.
Thank you.
Don't go away just yet. I'll close it out. We'll get a little photo, and we'll sort from there. So let me thank also John Francis for all his tech stuff that he does. He's such a busy man, but he keeps doing it. So thank you for that, John. Thank you for the people who helped me do this every week. My mom, my dad, my granddad, Jer and Calvin for the music and the logo. Subscribe to YouTube, but like I said, if you would, we're on Instagram, also the Quarter Life Coach. Don't forget, follow us both. Facebook, Twitter, Spotify, Apple, Anchor, Google Podcasts are where the podcast platforms are. All 90, this is the 95th episodes are on there. You can go back and listen if you like, and hear about all the things I've learned about. So, like I said, Emma, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And everybody else, thank you very much for listening. We'll be back next week. Have a lovely week.